Welcome, Communication Man here. Question for you, how do you become an expert listener? So, listening is more than hearing, it is a daunting skill to acquire. So, think about the word daunting. It's arduous, it's something really hard to do, like climbing Mount Everest. That's Mount Everest, the mountain. It's a hard thing to do. Most people will never do it. And becoming an expert listener, most people will never ever become one. And the reason is it's extremely frustrating. It's hard, it's challenging, and you have to develop your mind in a lot of areas of concentration and focus. And it's not a simple thing. Your observational skills need to be extremely tuned, and you have to also understand psychology, situational awareness, social attitudes. Like, there's so many things that go into listening to becoming a real expert, like a ninja, or like someone who's studying a craft or something. Like, you won't get good at this right away, and it will take your whole life to become an expert if you're really applying yourself. And even at the very end of that, you'll still be learning. So I want you to understand that it's difficult, because at least you will appreciate the fact that it's not an easy thing. So a lot of people think, well, if I'm just hearing, I should be a good listener. No, it's so much more complex than that. And I'm gonna talk about that in today's video, and show you why you shouldn't feel bad if you're not a good listener, because it's an extremely difficult skill to acquire, and to become it's a very powerful skill. It's almost like magic once you understand how to become an expert listener. It's like a power you can have. So subscribe for life hacks, communication tips. I got a new video coming for you every Wednesday, and these are things that help you become more capable and help you become more powerful in life. If listening is not simply hearing, then what is it? What is being an expert listener? So listening is in-depth thoughtfulness. Wow, that sounds simple. Well, it's not. Okay, so in-depth analysis, in-depth thinking is really, really important, because what you're going to do is analyze and think. So what this requires is all-pervading mental effort. So if you think listening's easy, then you're probably not really listening. You're probably parroting or mirroring, but you're not really listening. You're simply kind of tuning in, but not really paying attention to what's being said. So something that's really fascinating is I see people who they don't understand why they don't connect with people, and a lot of times you can tell by their body language just how what they're not looking at the person. You can tell by their face that they're distracted. And if you're rude and inconsiderate, you are definitely not going to get the door open for you from the other person. And a lot of people have really important information that's crucial, that actually can help you or you can learn from. But if you're too rude to see it or pay them respect, then they'll just not share with you, especially children and people that you're not really that close to. And even if you are close with them, if they feel like they're being kind of like disrespected, they're just going to silently resent you. So it's crucial that you're kind and considerate. You have a regard for them when you're listening. So the thing I like about, there's a picture that just popped up, it looks like Sherlock Holmes. So is the thing about Sherlock Holmes is what he's really known for is his observational skills. And what he does different is he narrows down like a submarine. He goes incredibly deep and can see things that people can only see from the surface, and he can go all the way down to the bottom of the ocean floor, so to speak, when seeing details and analyzing information, because he's giving all his effort. He's really paying attention. So number 2, you want to be quiet and you want to reflect continuously despite difficulties and distractions. So if you're listening, you should feel a little tired when you're done, because what you're doing is you're using a lot of your mental faculties. Now, the really wonderful thing about actually listening is your brain it's a lot of science behind this, can process information 4 times faster than when you're speaking. So what happens is when you're speaking, your brain has to articulate, has to think, and you're not really in the best position to analyze. So when you're more quiet, you actually have an advantage, because your brain can compare things, it can contrast, it can see the other person's body language, and you can learn a lot more than if you're running your mouth. So the best thing to do is no distractions. And really good listeners, they have positive body language. And what that means is you're not simply folding your arms, you're not looking down at your phone, you're not looking around the room, you're looking at the person. And you don't have to like stare them down and make them feel uncomfortable. You can look at their ear, you can kind of look near them and then go back to them. But the important thing is you want them to feel a little special. And the best thing about positive body language is what it shares is I'm open. So you have a kind of like good body position. You're not slouching. You don't look like you want to take a nap. And your body a lot of times follows whatever your brain is. So if you're really paying attention, you're going to naturally kind of lean in. You're going to open your arms. You're going to be in the conversation. So one of the most important things is an expert listener, you need the full power of concentration. So this means excluding other things. So a lot of people, they'll listen, but they're not actually paying attention. So what that means is maybe the person said, hey, today at work we had this really busy meeting. And then you before you even listen to what they say for the rest of the sentence, you start thinking about your day and I had a meeting today and I wonder if Bob's going to do what he said he's going to do. And you start going on this tangent in your head, and that person's talking, but you're not actually listening to them. And then they'll check in with you, and they'll realize, like, hey, did you hear that? And because they're going to see you tuning out. So you're not really listening. Do you understand? You're not giving them any respect. And so if you say this is hard, it is. Okay, and that's why I said don't feel bad if you're not good at this, because this is a skill. So it takes vigor, which is why most people are awful, terrible, no good listeners. And the great thing is this is a superpower. If you actually are not lazy when you're listening to people and you're not droning off and you're not just letting them talk and go on and on, let them think you're listening, you're not pretend listening, but you're actually fascinated by what they're saying, you will gain information that you've never thought you would gain. You will learn things you never thought, and people will open up to you. It's a strange thing how much information people will give away when they feel heard. And this is a beautiful thing, because when you get this reputation of being an expert listener, that's an attractive trait. Okay, people feel safe around people who listen. They feel comfortable, and as long as you're trustworthy, you're not using this information in a dubious way or anything to harm them, they're going to like you. And even if you don't love that person, you don't necessarily like to hang out with them all the time, it's not a bad thing to be liked by people, all right? It's going to open more doors than shut doors. So something that's like really important too is a good listener is going to remember things and repeat the information back, okay? So relevant information. So if someone starts talking, don't simply say, that gets old. If they say, hey, I had a really busy day, say, what was so busy about it, right? Do you see, it leads into the conversation. Well, for starters, the fax machine broke, my email didn't work, the computer's going crazy, I had all these things to do in the morning, and you just let them chime in on it, right? And then they say something, and it kind of stands out, it's relevant. And they say something, but I'm really stressed about this project we have. And you go, whoa, what project? You didn't tell me a project. And then they go, yeah, Now look, you're not always going to be interested necessarily in everything the person is, but you need to be interested in what's important to them. Why? Because here's what happens. You don't have to necessarily love everything what's going on, but you should engage. Now, a trick to do this, if you're like, I'm not sure if I'm really interested or fascinated by this, is pretend as if someone was going to give you $1 million, but for real, they were going to give you $1 million if you were engaged in this conversation and really fascinated by what was going on. I guarantee you, if for $1 million at the end of that conversation, if you'd really paid attention, you would, get $1 million. You magically, you really actually would become interested, because now there's a huge reason, a good caveat for you. So you can do this and trick yourself. Now, here's the cool thing. You're going to realize once you start doing this, it's going to get easier, but it's still going to require work. Kind of like exercise. You can go to the gym and you can get stronger and it'll be easier and you'll get to like a maintenance level, but you're still always going to have to push yourself a little bit. So that's what good listening does. So I like this picture. You can't see it if you're listening, but what the guy is doing is holding a telescope and he's like zooming in super far and he's excluding everything out. He has one eye closed. He's staring right into the telescope. That's what you want to do as a truly Jedi listener. You want to narrow in, and if you're in a restaurant, the only person that matters is the person you're listening to, and they need to feel like they're the only person in the universe. I mean, there can be people who come around you, the server, and you act like you didn't even hear them. That's what a really truly amazing listener does. And if you become a Jedi listener, this is your relationships are gonna just get 100 million times better. Because when people feel listened to, respected, and also don't fake it, actually be considerate and be kind. You don't have to, like I said, necessarily love them or agree with everything they say, but you do this out of respect for who you are. You have a high bar for yourself, and you treat people good because of the choice you made, not because of them. And that's going to protect you in life, because when you have the chance to be rude or pinch someone or get revenge somehow, it always bites you in the end. And you don't always, I guarantee you won't see where in the direct short term necessarily, but it will. It always does. Somehow some weird spider web creates in the karma world, and somehow it bites you in the butt. So it's much better, don't create that negative karma debt, and just really pay attention, really listen in. So the thing I want you to picture is, like, look at the pictures that just popped up, and if you can't see what popped up, there's a brain doing bicep curls. Okay, the brain's sweating. There's another picture of a brain like running on a treadmill. So your brain, if you're an expert listener, is going to get a workout. So if you're thinking listening some passive thing, then you're really not getting it. You're not listening. That's fake listening. It's lazy listening. You want to be vigilant. Okay, and it's difficult, and that's a good thing. The fact that it's hard makes it a rare and special, valuable skill. So if you develop this skill and you cultivate this in your life, you're going to become a Superman or Superwoman in whatever field you are, because there's so few people who do this. And trust me, people who are master listeners, they know a lot more than people who are stupid and always talking, running their mouth, okay? And here's another thing. You protect yourself. The more you talk, the more chance you have to ruin yourself, because people can use words against you. They can twist the words against you. When you're quiet, you can protect yourself, because you can be very careful what you say. And the more you listen, the more you get to know the other person, what's important to them, what's not, what triggers them, and also how they react. They'll tell you how they treat other people. And if you realize, wow, this person's a gossip, or this person, I can't trust this person, you're going to say, well, I'm really happy I didn't share with them something I would have shared 3 days ago or 30 minutes ago, before I realized that they're kind of backstabbing a little. So here's the takeaway, all right? I put it in the very top. An expert listener is good-natured, all right? What that means is you're easygoing. Basically, you have an easygoing temperament. You're impartial. Now, you may totally disagree with something, that their political views or something they're saying, or they might outright completely be lying, and you know they're lying. You know for a fact they're lying, but you pretend as if you don't know that, but you do know that. Now, here's why. When you're impartial, okay, and you just address that they feel that way. Now, you know it might be nonsense, but you let them feel whatever they're feeling. You don't need to correct them. You don't need to change them. Now, unless you're an attorney or something, there's a real reason to. Fine, you might need to. But in most cases, you will not change someone's mind. And if you have to push really hard, I guarantee you they're just going to push back. When you're really listening and you're tuning in, you can figure out what makes them tick and maybe provide a solution or offer some truth later down the road. But the key is you want to listen a lot and speak last. And so what I mean by that is get the whole picture and then speak minimally. Now, the reason most people can't do this and won't do this is their ego is so big. It's like a big hot air balloon. They can't deflate it, okay? They're so concerned about how they are seen to the other people, they don't realize that they look like a clown, okay? They're just running their mouth, and it's all about them. And because of their big ego, they're horrible listeners. Now, if you have a problem with talking too much, you probably have this issue. So it's much better for you to just look in the mirror and say, look, I'm going to have some self-awareness. I'm not going to point the finger at anyone except me. And you know what? Maybe I need to shut my mouth and I need to stop running. And I'm guilty of this. We're all guilty of this, okay? But wise people realize when they're not, basically we're not where they want to be. So the best thing you can do is speak last and minimally. So the reason it's so important to let someone else get everything out is, first, they're going to feel heard, they're going to feel listened to. And if you really do have something important, by listening, by really connecting with them and giving them respect, even if you don't agree with what they're saying or you know it's nonsense, you give them respect by listening. Okay, I see where you're saying. I see why you feel that, I see a different way, but I understand where you're saying. Now, if you kind of go in too much that direction, that's going to create a fight. What do you mean you see a different way? Oh, you don't agree with me? You think I'm lying? See how fast that turns ugly? So when you're impartial about it, you just say, oh, I see. And then let them assume whatever they want. Now, the best thing you can do is speak last, and minimally, by the time you get to the very end and you understand all the information that raveled out, you're going to catch on to a little more who they are, what they're going for. And now most people, this is what I've noticed too, they don't actually want help or assistance. So if you try to solve their problem or I can do this or that, what happens is they kind of just get annoyed with you. So really, like most people, just want to feel heard. And if you remember the 3 states of communication, the child, the parent, and adult, if you haven't, go watch that video. It's an excellent video. But a lot of people, they want to take on the role of the child and they need a parent. You want to stay in your adult state. But the thing is, sometimes out of love and respect, you can just simply let people feel listened to or respected. And you know what? You can call it whatever you want, but it's still going to help you. It still gives you good karma points, and you're developing good listening skills. So the best thing I want you to take away from this is, right now, every conversation you have after you watch this video is an opportunity for you to see, hey, am I being quiet? Am I reflecting? Am I having positive body language? Am I turning my phone off? Am I tuning into this person and making them feel like, they're the only person in the universe? Do this, because you're going to change your life if you do this. I guarantee if you become a better listener, all your relationships are going to get 1,000,000 times better, 100 times better, and you're going to feel the difference. People need to be heard. It's a human psychological need. And you might say, well, what about me? What about me? What about me? That's your ego, okay? If you have to vomit your words and barf at everybody and just tell them every stinking little detail about your life, or, oh, did you know I went on this trip and look what I did? If you have to do that, okay, you need to chill out. And if you need to record an audio, write a blog about it, write some notes, a diary if you need to. And that's good for you. It's good therapy. But share the really good stuff for other people, because most of the time they don't want to know. And if they do want to know, lead it like gently, like you're telling a story. And if you can tell that they're not biting for the bait, then just forget about it. It's not that important. I mean, you can push and stuff, but the more you push, the more resistance you're going to get. So you want to lead people, not force them. So I'm telling you, becoming an expert leader, like a listener, the Jedi type of listener, the kind you see in Star Wars, it's going to take a lot of discipline and a lot of diligence. And remember, it should feel a little exhausting. That's a good sign. That means you were actually using full in-depth thoughtfulness. Okay, so I want you to practice this today. Practice it with the next conversation you have, and remember this. Don't forget this after 10 seconds goes by or a couple days goes by, and whatever. Really focus on this. Make this a lifelong habit, so that by the time you get to the end of your life, you are such a good listener. Everybody is knows you for just being the best listener in the world. That's like the best compliment you could ever receive. All right, so do that. I love you, and I hope this helps you. It's time for the conversation starter question. All right, so question for you. Remember, cool questions lead to what? Lead to amazing conversations. All right, so this is I thought this one's really it pertains to our subject really well. So, who is the best listener you have ever met or seen, and why did you pick that person? So the best person I can really think that comes to my mind is we had a sales trainer when I was working for AT&T a long time ago, and the guy was the best listener I've ever met. I mean, everything I talked about in this video, he was expert status. And he had such a good heart. When he would listen to you, you didn't feel like it was some crappy fake, persona, some business guy. No way. Like, you actually felt like he cared. Now, whether or not he cared, I can't tell you, but it felt like he did. And I think he actually was quite genuine, because even when he was connecting, you could feel when he wasn't connecting, and then you could feel like when he was really, like his spirit was inside him connecting to yours, and you could just feel like he was in tune with you. And I remember I was like, this guy's amazing, and everybody loved him. I mean, he was charming, and like everybody, it was like this magnet was around him, and everybody was just like, I like you so much. And you could feel that. And I remember that's the power of a Jedi listener, of an expert, like the highest status level you can get from a listener. And what makes a really good listener is that they're really in tune with you, and they make you feel like you're $1 million. And that's the best thing. Like, when you have someone make you feel amazing, automatically your attractiveness goes to them. Now, not in a cheesy, like sappy way, like a love story way, but the real, like, you're really in tune, like you could listen to that person forever. And when you do that, something magical happens. So, and I remember what was fascinating is this guy definitely taught it to his daughter, because he was a really sweet guy, and he played this voicemail that she left for him, because he travels on the road a lot. He's a sales trainer, and so he's not always home, and she left this amazing voicemail, and he taught her at the end of the day, he always wants to know what did you do to help other people, to show them love and kindness. and she left this amazing voicemail. I don't remember the exact details, but it was so touching, and you could feel the genuineness in her heart and in the tone of voice, and you could tell she cared, and that was the byproduct of him. He created this amazing dynamic between her and kept teaching her good skills. So I don't think you can fake that. And my point is, if you really genuinely care about people, you are thoughtful, it's going to make your life awesome. Even if you don't necessarily agree with everything they're saying, it's going to make your life better. Because this guy was so just attractive. And I'm not gay or anything like that. But I mean, it's he was attractive from a person. You just wanted to be around this person. And that's the power of an expert listener. And, nice thing too is this guy made a lot of money. I mean, we're talking over $300,000. I know he made bank, okay, because his house, his car, I just knew he did because he got a huge commission based on all the salespeople. And this guy had a really nice lifestyle. So being an expert listener can pay you a lot if you have that with some other skills. So I'm telling you, especially if you're in sales or anything with people, which is pretty much everything in this world, being an expert listener is going to bless you. It's going to make your life rock. All right. So my question for you is, who's the best listener you've ever met and why? Put it in the comment. I'd really like to know. I like getting to know my listeners. So yeah, comment below and tell me what you think. So as always, subscribe. I got a new video coming for you every Wednesday, and I love you guys, and I hope this helped you. And comment below who's your favorite listener, the best listener you've ever met, and why.